welcome back to my channel, or for those of you who are watching for the first time, welcome to my channel. On this channel, I create videos about the college and graduate school application processes so that you guys know everything you need to know about getting into the schools of your dreams. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about supplements for your college applications. Not all colleges and universities require this as part of your application, but a number of them do. To know whether or not you have supplement essays and questions for your college application, add that school to either your Common App or your Coalition app, and if that school does have required supplement essays and questions, it will come up in your application at that time. So I think it's a great idea as early into the process as you can to sort of add your schools to your applications so you can see whether or not you have any required essays or short answer questions to be focusing on. And just like there's differences in whether or not schools even have these supplements, there's also a lot of differences in terms of what the supplements actually look like. Some schools may have one really long supplement essay that's a pretty boring question, and other schools might have a series of short answer questions that are pretty creative and quirky. And then some schools might have a combination of both. And so there's a lot of variability in terms of what to expect for supplements. So again, check into this as early as possible in your application cycle so you're not kind of surprised days before the deadline wondering how you're going to write all these essays. Another thing to know with respect to deadline is that your supplement essays and questions are due at the same time as the rest of your application to that college. So let's say you're applying early action to a school and the application deadline is October 15th. It's imperative that you also submit your supplementary essays and questions on that October 15th deadline in order for your application to be considered complete. And although these supplement essays and questions are not as important as your Common App essay, they're not as important as your test scores, they are still a pretty important part of your application because they're really a chance for you to let your personality shine through and to go into a little bit of detail about things that you've done during high school and just stories about who you are as an applicant. And so I'm now going to give some tips and tricks for how best to write your supplement essays and questions for your college application so that you guys can be sure to submit the best possible supplements. Tip number 1 is reuse essays whenever possible. Sometimes schools will give you a choice of several different essay questions. They might say, here are 3 questions, please pick one and write 400-word essay on it. Be really mindful of the different essays you're writing as supplements for different colleges. And if there are 2 similar questions between 2 different colleges, use a very similar essay for those 2 questions. Don't burden yourself more than you need to and just write all different essays all the time. Instead, keep track of what essays you've already written and try to use them for other schools too whenever possible. My second tip is use essay templates when you can. So there are going to be times where you can't reuse an essay, and I think one of the more common times is when the school's like, why do you want to go to our school? If you are reusing that essay school after school, chances are you're not really giving convincing reasons why you actually want to go to that school. In cases like that, I recommend you develop an essay framework where maybe you have the same opening and ending and you have the same middle structure, but your actual reasons for wanting to go to that school are easily able to be swapped out and replaced with other reasons as you answer that question for different schools. My next tip is kind of related to that, and that's be specific. If a school is asking you why you want to go to that school, you don't want to just give general answers that every other applicant could also be saying. Let's say your dream school is, University of Connecticut. And, when they ask you, why do you want to go to University of Connecticut? Your answers are like, I love Connecticut. It's like close to my family and there are so many people there and it'll be so fun. Almost any applicant applying to University of Connecticut would be able to give those reasons, and they'd be pretty believable reasons because they're really generic reasons. Instead of going with the generic route, I really encourage you guys to learn really specific and unique things about the colleges you're applying to, things that really align with your passions, things that make sense given the rest of your application, and use those unique reasons to substantiate why you want to go to that school. Because if you have reasons that really stand out from the crowd, the admissions officers are really going to believe that that's a school you actually want to go to. My next tip is highlight different aspects of yourself while answering these supplement questions. It can be really tempting to talk about one thing throughout your whole application. Let's say you love sports. It can be really easy just to weave sports into every essay you're writing for your application. Your Common App essay might be about sports, all your supplement essays might be around sports, but that doesn't really present you as a well-rounded applicant. Instead, try to think about different parts of you that are really impressive, different accomplishments that you've had, and try to touch on all of those different aspects throughout your different supplement essays. That way, the admissions officer reading through your application is really going to see all of the different reasons why you're a star applicant. My next tip is don't repeat your Common App essay. You obviously wrote your Common App essay about something super important to you. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have chosen that topic for the essay. However, it can be really tempting to reuse some of the stuff you talked about in that Common App essay in your supplement essays. And that is not a great use of space because the admissions officer is already going to be reading your Common App essay. They're already going to learn all that information. The last thing they want to do is read through your supplement essays and just relearn that same information again. So try your best to avoid the topics, or at least avoid in detail the topics that you've talked about in your Common App essay. My next tip is answer the question. And to be fair, this one probably sounds stupid because of course you're going to answer the question, that's why you're writing the supplement essay. However, I can't tell you how many times that I've read through essays that barely answer the question being asked. You know, the student might have an elaborate beginning and a really long end, and somewhere in the middle they slide in 1 to 2 sentences that actually address the question being asked. However, most of your supplement essay should really be addressing the question that the university or college is asking you. And one way to make sure it is highlighting any part of your essay that directly answers the question being asked. If you go through and highlight one sentence in a 20-sentence essay, that's probably not enough space dedicated to actually answering the question. However, if you go through and 90% of your essays highlight it, that means that you've done a really nice job of making sure that you answer the question fully. My next tip is be as unique and original as possible. It can be really tempting when answering some of these supplement questions to give pretty boring and cliche answers. But let's say a question is, what is the big challenge that you faced in your life and how did you overcome it? Let's say you write about the transition from middle school to high school, because let's be fair, that was tough for a lot of people. But if you're writing about that, let's think about it. A lot of other people probably also had a difficult transition between middle and high school, which means a lot of other people probably already talked about that topic. And the admissions officer is going to read your essay and be like, oh, all right, I've already seen this dozens of times before. So when answering these questions, think if there are things that happened in your life, stories, examples, etc., that are really different than most other people would be able to talk about. Things that happen to you that are really unique and original and rare. So that when the admissions officer is reading through your supplement essays, they're reading something fresh and novel, and then you end up standing out as a result. My next tip is give yourself adequate time to work on your supplement essays and questions. It can be really tempting to save these for the end because it's not something people talk about as much as something like, your college list, your Common App essay. But some supplement essays can take quite a while to actually write and get through. And so if you wait until a week before your application is due, there's a good chance that your essays are not going to be as strong as they otherwise could have been. And so give yourself ideally a month or even 2 months to be working on some of these supplement essays so that you make sure that they are of the highest quality possible. My next suggestion is don't assume optional actually means optional. I've worked with students before who are like, oh, I don't have to write any supplement essays. All the colleges say they're optional, so I'm just not going to spend my time doing it. And that is a huge mistake. You should be taking advantage of any opportunity the college gives you to tell them more about yourself and to give them reasons why they should accept you into their upcoming class. And so even if an essay says optional, you should kind of just read that as being required because under no circumstances should you not be submitting essays if you have the opportunity to do so. And then my final tip is use these supplement essays as a way to further tell your story. And if you've watched the other videos in this application series, if you haven't, they're linked down below. You'll know that something I say very often is try to tell a story with your application. I said this when writing your Common App essay, when filling out your activity section, and it's still true when talking about supplement essays as well. When I say tell a story, I mean that all parts of your application should form this sort of cohesive person, you, the applicant, and everything should kind of fit together into a logical way. And so when the admissions officers goes to read your application, they really understand the kind of applicant they'd be accepting if they admit you into their school. And so when you're writing these supplement essays, it's really, really important that they fit in with the rest of the application you presented. If you wrote your whole application as being someone who's really compassionate and really loves helping others, those sort of undertones should be coming through in your supplement essays as well. And so remember that they are a small part of your overall bigger application and should feel like almost a puzzle piece that is fitting into the bigger puzzle. And so those are my 10 tips for writing your supplement essays for college. I hope they're helpful. I hope that maybe now you guys will give yourself plenty of time to write these essays and know how best to approach them when you do go to write them. But if you have any questions about anything I said in this video, please either comment below or send me an email. My email is in the description box. If you learned anything at all from this video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more tips and tricks about the college application process. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.